is a big intro to who I am. So, hi everyone, nice to see you all. And thanks for joining, really appreciate it. I've got a little set of slides which I'll run in a minute, but I thought I'd kind of start off by giving a little bit of a short version of the story of how I went vegan. It's on the blog if you want to read it, like an extended cut. But essentially, I went into it for health reasons. I've been on a plant-based diet or a vegan for nearly a year now. It was 1st of November last year that I decided to change my diet. And this was as a result of effectively at work, we have this like once a year, we have this like roving health monitor station thing that comes to our office. And it's like this weird thing that you step in and it checks your blood pressure, your heart rate, your BMI, everything. And we just got back from holiday in Portugal, and I went in this thing, and I thought, oh, you know, I'll smash this. This is fine. You know, I'm fit and healthy, and you know, relatively young. It'll all be good. And all the various stats that came out were really good, other than one, which was my blood pressure. And the blood pressure, they had like a chart, and there was like, you know, perfect was 120/80, slightly elevated was yellow. A bit above that was red, and then there was a bit above that right at the top, which was like seek medical advice. And mine came out on that seek medical advice bit. I think from memory it was something like 179/115. It was around that, and 175/115. And being a typical bloke, I just thought, oh, it's probably because I just had a coffee or a stressful meeting or you know whatever it is. I'll just ignore it. And then the next day, my team thought it'd be fun for us all to do it. So we all did it together. And my result came out just as high the second time. So then after work, I'd had a meeting and I was the only one there. I thought, oh, I'm going to go and try it again. So I did it again. And it was just as high. So, you know, I remember going home and speaking to Laura and she was like, oh, you know, you should really phone the doctor. And, you know, being a typical guy, I didn't. And so, you know, I think throughout that week, I tried it a few times and every single time it was maybe a little bit lower, but pretty much it was still on that, you know, seek medical advice kind of level. So long story short, I went to the doctor and they gave me like a proper blood pressure monitor, to like a calibrated one, they called it, to take home for I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks to test it 3 or 4 times a day. So did that and it still came out really high. It wasn't as high as the machine at work, but it was still, you know, for my height, my age, my weight, you know, I played football twice a week. I did a lot of sport. I ate relatively healthily. You know, there was nothing really that would mean I would have that, you know, nothing that would kind of, there's no reason for me to have blood pressure that high. So he basically said to me, you know, there must be something else going on. Have you got any family history of high blood pressure? And I was like, I don't think so, you know, pretty sure I haven't. So I went home, phoned my parents, phoned everyone, you know, that I knew in my family, and they were basically like, oh yeah, no, there's tons of history of it. You know, my grandma, who I never met because she died before I was born, died from a stroke, high blood pressure. Most of my family are on high blood pressure pills. My brother has been on them since he was my age. My dad has been on them for a very long time. So actually there was a big family history of it. So the doctor, when I told him that, was basically like, right, we'll put you on pills, you know, straight away. But once you're on them for life, and there's no going back. And you know, there's various side effects to the different pills that we can put you on. So you know, have a think about it. But if you want, we'll put you on them straight away because your blood pressure's at, you know, at a level that is at risk. So I guess the year before leading up to that, I'd started looking into kind of vegan diets. Hadn't really changed my diet at all. You know, I was a massive meat eater, you know, drank loads of milk, ate loads of cheese, didn't think anything of it, you know, because I did a lot of sport. I just thought, you know, I'd burn it off, you know, whatever. But I had been looking into it, I guess, because it had become more popular in the mainstream, and you know, I knew people that were vegans and they weren't that weird. So I just thought, you know, I was looking into it a bit more. And I remember watching a couple of Netflix documentaries during the same time that I was deciding, you know, about all this. And it all kind of came to a point where I'd done enough research to think, right, I'm just going to try going plant-based, you know, and just see how it goes. And then, you know, fast forward to now, I made a decision on the 1st of November last year. I thought, right, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to cut out all animal products, so meat, dairy, everything. And fast forward to now, I mean, almost straight away, but right now my blood pressure is absolutely perfect. It's 120/80 every single time I test it, if not a little bit lower. I was saying to Linda, it's quite ironic. In my blog I've written I've not had any illnesses this year, and then last week I came down with a cold. Made me laugh. But there we go. Other than that, I've had no illnesses. I've had much more energy. I've lost 8 kilos in weight over the last year, not through doing any extra exercise. Pretty much just all from eating plant-based. I felt much better than I ever have done before. But the main thing for me was the blood pressure. That was the thing that made me go plant-based. But as a result of that, I've discovered lots of other benefits as well. And the environment, me now, that's even if someone, we can guarantee will always be there. I wouldn't change it is for the environment, how bad eating.
We lost you a bit.
We're still there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better. Yeah, thank you.
Just saying that, it was the health reasons that I made the change, but actually, as I've been on this journey, I've realised the environmental impacts of doing this have been really good as well. So just a couple of slides which I'm going to share with you. Environmental impacts. Okay. Dan, it's might be a little bit small, but can you see my screen? Can you guys see my screen? Up?
Yeah, we can see it, we just can't hear you.
Not sure why. Okay, I'll try and speak a bit louder. Effectively, so I thought I'd give a little description of what plant-based is, what vegan is, because there's a lot of confusion. So someone who's vegan will typically not eat any meat or poultry, seafood, eggs, dairy products. Anything that comes from animals they won't eat. They'll also be very strict on what they wear. So you won't wear anything leather, wool. They'll be really strict.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. I can hear a lot of background noise, but it's not me. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Yes.
That's better.
Everyone mute, it might help.
Yeah, mute everybody.
Yes.
Okay, mute. Yeah.
Can I butt in, please, and get everybody to mute? I was.
Yeah. Is that all good now? Can you still hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'll recap that bit. So a vegan is someone that won't have anything to do with animal products. So they won't eat any animal products, whether it's meat or dairy. They won't wear leather belts or leather shoes. They won't wear wool. They won't eat honey. Anything that uses animal products in any way, they will completely refrain from. Whereas someone who's following a plant-based diet would look to reduce meat, poultry, eggs, everything. They might still eat it occasionally, but they would look to try and not eat it. They would still eat oils, processed foods, whole grains, everything like that. Whereas someone who's whole foods, plant-based, will be the same as that, but they will cut out processed foods. They won't have white rice, flour, that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm somewhere between plant-based and vegan, I would say. I'm not a proper vegan because I wouldn't have a problem wearing a leather belt. I wouldn't have a problem wearing wool, or I'd eat honey. I would say, I've completely I hear a lot of background noise again. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's Selena, I think. Hey, Selena. No. Okay.
Mute.
Okay, cool. Right, so move to the next slide. So this is quite a good stat, quite a good quote that I thought I'd read to you. So this is from a university study recently. So this is kind of focusing on the environmental impacts. So eating a vegan diet is the single biggest way to reduce your environmental impact on Earth. So this is taking into account all the with carbon dioxide as well. And basically, researchers at Oxford have found cutting out meat and dairy from the diet can reduce your individual carbon footprint up to 73%. And this is something that I've never really, never really thought about when I went vegan. But has got a huge impact. If everyone went vegan, that would be a massive impact on the environment. So here, this is quite an interesting graphic. This is, which one of these two things contributes more to global warming? Is it or is it what you eat? And a lot of people don't realise that actually it's farming, it's agricultural industry. So this is the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization. And they've,
No.
I'm
just listening to Andy Thomas talking about why he went vegan. Why he went vegan.
Selena, you go on
Oh,
mute.
sorry.
Is that right?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Okay, there we go. So actually,
Need to mute myself.
Okay. So actually, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, animal agribusiness, they're calling it, contributes to global warming much more than all the transportation industry together. So that's all the petrol, it's all the cars, all the trains, all your aeroplane flights, everything. If you combine all that, eating a vegan diet, basically, the agricultural business, farming and animal products are worse for the environment than that transportation industry combined. Okay. So to kind of break that down a bit
Sorry,
more.
Andy, I know that statistic actually because it was in our quiz today.
Oh yeah.
And transport is 14% of the greenhouse gases, and agriculture, forestry, etc., is 24%.
Yeah.
So there is a big gap, and it's quite a big discrepancy in people's understanding, actually. Yeah.
And it's something that I had no idea about until I went plant-based. And I guess then, once you are eating plant-based, you kind of research it a bit more yourself. But yeah, it's huge. If you look at methane as well, so methane is 20 times more powerful at trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere than carbon dioxide. And effectively, chickens, turkeys, pigs, cows, they're collectively the largest producer of methane. That says in the US, but it's actually in the world. A lot of these stats I've got are from the US because they've got a lot of good, diagrams, but you can apply this to the world. And then nitrous oxide, not a lot of people know about as well. That's actually 300 times more powerful at trapping heat than carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the meat, egg, and dairy industries produce 65% of the world's nitrous oxide emissions. So it's not just meat; it's dairy as well. This one's quite hard to read. Sorry about that. It's quite small, but basically what this is looking at greenhouse gas emissions across the supply chain for the world. So it's like land use, farming, animal food processing, transportation, packaging, retail, everything. If you combine all of that, they're looking at what's the most harmful food produce for the world for greenhouse gas emissions. And if you can see that right at the top there are the main offenders. You've got beef, lamb, cheese, chocolate, coffee, prawns, palm oil, pork. Well, basically beef is like twice as bad as everything else for greenhouse. And then all the meats basically and dairy in there as well are really super high. Whereas if you go down the bottom from milk downwards, you've got your wheat and rye, tomatoes, maize, soy milk, peas, bananas, everything that a vegan would eat or a plant-based diet would eat, a very, very low impact on greenhouse gases. And then if you look at it from water as well, volume of water required to produce the foods rather than the greenhouse gases, you've got chocolate as the main offender. So sorry, anybody who loves chocolate. And then again, all the meats, so beef, lamb, mutton, pork, all of that kind of stuff, takes a huge amount of water to effectively to produce. And not a lot of people realize that when they're consuming it. It's something that I didn't know until I've done my research. But right at the bottom there, you've got tea, beer, and wine. So we're fine with drinks. Yeah, next slide, Henry. But to put it into some kind of useful graphics that are easier to understand, 1 kilo of chocolate requires 17,000 litres of water to produce. So, the graphic there, that's enough to fill a cozy backyard pool. So I imagine it's like a small pool, but even so, 1 kilo of chocolate, and you kind of think, it just seems crazy the amount of water that's needed to produce that. And then if you look at pork, 1 kilo of pork is effectively the same as nearly 200 showers. That's 6,000 litres of water. I've got loads of these graphics as well if anyone's interested, but to kind of move them on, then you get down to kind of whole grains, obviously much better for the environment. Still, 1,200 litres and 1,800 litres for wheat and corn. But if you keep going, when you get down to kind of fruits and veggies, it's only like 500 litres. And then things like tomatoes and potatoes are only 250-ish litres of water to produce a kilo. Whereas you compare that to pork and to chocolate, it's just night and day. It's just a crazy amount of water that is required to produce those. So it kind of brings me on to milk, because I guess this is like a big kind of sticking point for people who go vegan or plant-based, is getting rid of milk. It's so ubiquitous, I guess, with us in Britain, in tea and coffee and cereals. And I think this can be a bit of a stumbling block for a lot of people, is replacing milk with soy milk or coconut or almond or whatever it may be. But for me, soy is my milk of choice, and for most of the family now. And to be honest with you, I can't tell the difference now. Like, I haven't had real milk for nearly a year, but I have soy in all my drinks. I have it in my cereals, and it's, I really like it. I genuinely like it. But looking at the actual the impact of it, so you've got three things here. You've got the greenhouse gas emissions, the water use, and the land use. So all of those, dairy comes out, super, super high. So it's not just, the meat industry that, is contributing, it's the dairy too. So, soy is my favorite, but there's other milks of choice, and soy comes out pretty well on most of the stats. So one question I get a lot, and a lot of vegans get, is, do you eat, do you get enough protein in your diet? Do you get enough nutrients? Because, you must need meat, you must need dairy, where the answer is effectively that's all a bit of a myth, a bit of a lie. You don't need meat, you don't need dairy. You get protein, which is the main question I get, is where to get your protein from. You get protein in literally everything that you eat. This chart here has got, apples, bananas, broccoli, spinach, rice, everything. And you'll see, effectively men need 56 grams of protein on average, and women 46. So, if we said 50 grams of protein as an average for a human per day, in the West, we normally eat 2 to 3 times that amount of protein, which is actually really bad for us. Protein's a bit of a buzzword, and everyone says, oh, you should get your protein, whereas actually we tend to eat much more than we need, which can have some really harmful effects on a lot of diseases. Too much protein in your body can be bad, can accelerate growth of things that you don't want. But effectively, it's in everything. If you eat a balanced, healthy, plant-based diet, you're going to get enough protein, absolutely guaranteed. But if you want to kind of compare it to, like for like, just to kind of, enforce the point that you don't need meat for protein. If you look at steak, 100 calories of steak gives you 8 grams of protein. 100 calories of broccoli gives you 11 grams of protein. And obviously 100 calories of broccoli is going to be quite a big bowl as opposed to a bit of steak, but you're going to get hardly any fat in there. You're going to get all the vitamins and essential nutrients and minerals. That's going to be much better for you. And if you wanted to compare kind of like for like on weight, 4 ounces of beef as against 4 ounces of black beans, they're both 24 grams of protein. You're not losing out at all in terms of protein, and you're getting all the health benefits as well, as opposed to, the saturated fats and the cholesterols. Personally for me, I've discovered that eating plant-based is fantastic for lowering blood pressure, but it's also great for lowering cholesterol. There's basically 0 cholesterol in plant-based food. It's great for arthritis. It's great for lowering risk of certain cancers. It's great for lowering risk of dementia, for diabetes, a whole host of things really. There's loads of good literature and stuff out there you can research, but it's one book that I've read which is amazing. It's called the China Study, and it's effectively a 30-year study into how a plant-based diet can have an effect on a whole nation really, and their kind of rates of death and what people die from is very, very different to the Western world. A lot of Western world has high levels of heart disease, whereas in this study they determined that most people who ate a bigger plant-based diet didn't die of heart disease; they died of other things. Quite an interesting book called the China Study. So I thought it'd be quite useful to give some like little tips. So if anybody is, thinking of transitioning at all, then there's some good tips here. The first one is like a why mindset. So there's 3 main reasons that people tend to look into this. One is health reasons. So that's like me, it was an alternative to going on pills the rest of my life. There's the environmental benefits. A lot of people I know have gone vegan literally just, to help do their bit for the environment. And there's also animal welfare, which I haven't really touched on at all, because for me, that wasn't the main driver. But I would say most pure vegans do it for animal welfare. You see them holding vigils outside slaughterhouses and things like that, So for a lot of people, that's really key. But I would say, pick what's important to you, why would you want to do this? And then research that and expand your knowledge on that, which is effectively what I did. And as I've gone on my journey, I've discovered the environmental benefits, and also it's great. I love the fact that I'm not having to kill animals to get my food, but it's not the main point for me, but it's been useful to kind of, expand my knowledge a little bit. So a good tip is to go vegetarian first. So this can kind of ease the transition. This isn't what I did. I went completely cold turkey. 1st of November, I said, right, that's it, I'm cutting it all out. But I think that suits my mindset and personality better. I'm quite good at all or nothing. I'm not very good at doing a slow transition. But a lot of people aren't like that. And so I think going vegetarian can really help, because I think it can be harder in some ways to give up milk, cheese and butter and things like that than meat, really. But a really good tip, number 4 here, and I wish I'd kind of discovered this before I went vegan, is adding foods before subtracting. So before you start cutting out beef and bacon and milk or whatever it is, start adding in things like more cauliflower or broccoli or even tofu or loads of really like good alternatives out there. So you can have a little play with adding stuff to your diet, see if you get on with it, and then if you do, you'll start to realize that you can reduce your meat a little bit. Number 5 there is to veganize your favorite meals. So there, we're in an amazing age where there is literally alternate meats out there for everything. There's some really good alternate chicken, some mince, burgers. I've had some burgers that taste exactly like real meat that aren't. They're completely plant-based. They're not great for you. They're still junk food, but they're going to be better for you than meat. But that's one way of kind of transitioning if you're interested. I try to keep it to a minimum, but every now and then, if I go to Burger King, with the kids, then at least there's an option for me, because they do like a plant-based burger. So it can be quite useful that, we're in this point now where there is really good alternatives. And then at the end there, stock up on stuff, like chickpeas and lentils, things that you can kind of have a go at and, increase your veg, little simple things. And it's really important, going at your own pace and getting support around you is critical, really, whatever works for you, and finding resources and like-minded people. And if anyone's interested, more than happy to kind of go into this in more detail, talk to you about what I eat, all that kind of stuff. Okay, next slide, Henry. I thought it'd be quite useful to do some like snacks as well. A lot of people say, well, what do you eat for snacks if you can't eat chocolate and you can't eat cheese, that kind of stuff. So lots of fruit. Popcorn's another one that's good. Rice cakes, guacamole. I've discovered I'd never tried an avocado before I went vegan, and I can't I can't say how much I love avocados now. I could live off guacamole quite easily. Hummus, nuts, grapes. There's loads of different snacks you can eat, and it's all super tasty. And I guess it's about variety. Don't eat the same thing all the time. Whatever you decide to do, the variety is the main thing. Getting all different colours of veggies, getting all the different nutrients. But yeah, some interesting options for snacks. And then, apologies, this is all in US dollars. I couldn't find a good UK equivalent. But a lot of people say to me, is it expensive? Buying all these fake meats and different things. And the answer is, if you go the fake meat option, it can be expensive. If you go the fake vegan cheese, that can be expensive, but it's pretty gross. There's no real good alternative to cheese. Sorry to say, but if you want to do it on a budget, all the main staples here. These are the main staples in my diet. Rice, oats, fruit, chickpeas, green leafy veg, broccoli, sweet potatoes, whole grains, pasta. It's all like the cheapest food you can buy. So, you'll probably actually see, if you do it this way, you'll actually see a reduction in what you spend, and you'll feel much better for it as well. So I thought to finish off before opening it up for questions, I thought I'd talk you through what the kind of thing I would eat in a week, these aren't photos of my food. These are nicer photos that I found on the internet. But as a family, we tend to eat relatively similarly. The girls still eat things like chicken nuggets and sausages and eggs, because I'm not going to enforce my opinion on them. I'd want them to make their own choice when they're old enough. And the same with anyone, I'm not militant about this. I think it's everyone's choice what they want to do, what they can do. But we try and eat as much as similar foods as we can, because we know it's healthy, and to be honest, it's just easier to cook one meal rather than 2 or 3. So we'd have a lot of things like this. So these kind of like rice or quinoa bowls, where you've got lots of beans and avocado, tofu, lots of green veggies, this kind of thing. This is, if me and Laura are having a lunch together, this is what we'll eat. We love it. Have a nice dressing on there, super tasty, super healthy, and keep you full for hours. And it's all good for you. A lot of curry. So I love my curries. So, rather than having a chicken jalfrezi, I'll have a tofu jalfrezi now, which, at first, if you've never had tofu before, it might sound completely gross and not something that you want to try, but it's not. I come around my house, I'll cook you a tofu curry, and I can guarantee you I'll convert you. Graham's had it. I don't know if he's realised he's had it, but he's he's had it a few times around our house. But cauliflower and chickpea curry, that's one of our favourites. We eat that like all the time. It's super tasty, super healthy, and keeps you full for ages. So yeah, we certainly don't feel like we're missing out. I feel like, if anything, we feel like we're eating better food and more variety as a result. We cook a lot of like vegan versions of food as well. So, your traditional cottage or shepherd's pies, lasagna, cannelloni, that kind of thing. Something that you would use like minced beef. I tend to use lentils. You can use like mushrooms and things like that, but I tend to find lentils works best. And effectively, you're making the exact same thing, but instead of using meat, you're using lentils. So it's the same tomato-based sauce with vegetable stock rather than beef stock. And then it's the same, potatoes are fine. You can add vegan cheese on if you want or not. And it's super tasty and, nice winter warmer. And, it certainly doesn't feel like we're missing out, on the meat at all. And then my favorite here, these are kind of my favorite snacks. So avocado on toast, I could eat that all day long, absolutely love it. And one of my amazing finds is a vegan recipe for nacho cheese sauce for Doritos and tortillas, that kind of thing. So the one on the right there that you can see is actually plant-based. It doesn't have any cheese in it. And it's made out of soy milk, potatoes and carrots. So not only is it super tasty, and I can, I've given this to so many people and they honestly thought it was cheese sauce. They had no clue it wasn't. And it's actually good for you. That's the crazy thing. You can eat an entire bowl of that and it's genuinely good for you. There's nothing bad in it. And it's potatoes, carrots, and a bit of mustard and things like that. So yeah, I love discovering kind of ways of putting a vegan twist on normal food, I guess. Burgers is a big staple in our house. We used to have homemade burgers all the time. So now we just simply make them out of vegan food. So plant-based bean burgers, sweet potato burgers, bean burgers. We all love that. Lily here is the star burger maker. She makes a mean spicy bean burger that none of us can beat. And we have that probably once a week. And then you can use that as well. You can make your own falafels out of it. There's loads of things you can make out of beans. And we all love that. And then pizza, every Saturday we have pizza. And 90% of a pizza is vegan. If you take the cheese off, it's vegan, or the meat. So you can add vegan cheese onto it, or you just load it up with veggies like the one here. That's what I tend to do. And yeah, again, super tasty and don't feel like I'm kind of missing out on anything. And then for all you chocoholics out there, I'm not much of a sweet tooth person myself. But a lot of people say to me, how do you live without chocolate? And the answer for me is dark chocolate. And a lot of people don't realize this, but most, if not all, dark chocolate is vegan. It uses soy milk rather than cow's milk. Don't know the reason for that, but pretty much every single bar of dark chocolate you will find in the shops is vegan. So yeah, I eat a lot of dark chocolate. That's one of my go-to snacks. And also, the girls and Laura are amazing at making everything vegan for me in terms of like brownies, cakes. They bake almost every day, something amazing, cookies, loads of stuff. And, you can get some really, really good vegan butters. You've got alternative milks, yogurts. There's, if you go to the shops now, there's almost nothing that you can't find that's vegan to make nice cakes. So yeah, so if you're sweet tooth minded, you're certainly not missing out as well. So really, that's kind of it. You know, I guess for me, it's been a journey of health, learning about the environment, and a bit of animal welfare as well. You know, I went completely cold turkey, but I don't recommend that. You know, I recommend, you know, transitioning, trying a few things out, maybe have a vegan day or a week, or, you know, a vegetarian day or week, something like that, give it a go. I think the stats are pretty clear out there for the environment that, you know, the animal industry is pretty bad for the environment. You know, the facts are pretty clear. So I think, you know, whatever we can do in our own worlds of reducing our meat consumption is going to be good for the environment. Obviously, a lot of people probably won't be able to go vegan. Some people see it's too extreme, but whatever you can do, I think will benefit the environment, definitely. And not only that, it will benefit you. There's, you know, numerous health benefits. I can't sing its praises enough of, you know, what it's done for me, and many others that I know. But yeah, I guess that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andy. That's brilliant. What a lot of interesting facts there, which we may have known some of them, but not as detailed as you've given. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I'm so pleased you actually said that you can get vegan cheese. I live a lot on cheese and I love it. And if anybody took it out of my diet, I think I'd just die. So, is it as strong as normal, you know, cheddar and
There's a whole load of varieties. There's probably like, you know, 50 different makes of vegan cheese, from like feta to cheddar to mozzarella. I would say the vegan meats are really good. They're like, you know, a lot of people wouldn't know the difference, whereas the vegan cheeses, you do. You know, most vegan cheeses don't taste like real cheese. But I was never a massive cheese fan, whereas if you are a huge cheese fan, I think
yes.
But go buy a book and see.
So do all supermarkets sell vegan cheese?
Yeah, I think all the main ones. I'm not sure if they do. Laura? Was it mainly?
Sorry, we've got some interference, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, Selena. No.
Yes.
Hi, Selena. Nice to see you.
Definitely all the main supermarkets do. You know,
Right. Okay, I will explore.
Yeah.
So, folks, I'm sure you'll have some questions for Andy. If you would just like to unmute yourself and sort of fly your hand in the air when you'd like to ask. Richard?
Andy, I couldn't hear what you were saying about honey. Did you say you did or didn't eat it?
You know, I do eat honey. Yeah, I think a pure vegan wouldn't eat honey because they would, you know, making honey. Whereas for me, you know, I don't mind eating honey. I don't think it harms the bees.
No, it feels healthy.
Yeah, I think it is. You know, I think like beekeeping doesn't contribute to anything bad for the environment. If in fact it's the opposite, it saves bees are endangered. Whereas I think, you know, beef, lamb, chicken, eggs, dairy are all bad contributors to the environment at the consumption in the West that we eat them.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Graham, you need to unmute, Graham.
I have, yeah.
Oh, right, thank you.
Well, one is a question, really. So all these cups of tea I've been having recently haven't had milk in them. Is that right? Is all in this soy milk?
No, we do have normal milk in our fridge for when people
Laura.
I think you've been having normal milk, unless Laura.
Okay, I can say I haven't tasted the difference.
Yeah, cow's milk in your tea, Dad.
Okay. The point I would make is these people go to so much effort to make the flavour so good that it's often so much better than the, you know, the authentic version of something. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it. You know, when I was away in America with work, and I tried a couple of burgers at some nice restaurants, and they were all tasty, and the whole table tried it, and no one realised it wasn't actual. So, you know, there's some really good places out there, but you know, it's the easiest way to do it.
Andy, I just wonder about carbon footprint on things like you were saying about avocado. I agree with you. I think it's delicious and I love it. I do, I suppose, have this kind of conflict because, of course, we don't really grow avocado in the UK. And I suppose for me, I justify to myself, although I will class myself as a reducitarian, that you know, I will eat meat if it's sort of produced locally, and I always look at how it's reared and whatever. And I am worried about eating some plants because of how far they've had to travel to get to me. I'm just wondering about your opinion on that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's,
Excuse me, Andy. Can I just ask Selena to mute because there's lots of interference?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, sorry.
really good question, and I think it's kind of finding what sits right with you. I guess, you know, it's probably impossible to always, like, be as completely ethical and environmental like all the time. And I think you're right. I think it's kind of picking what works for you. For me, I think in the West we eat way too much meat and dairy, and I think, you know, the stats are like, you know, meat and dairy are like twice as bad as everything else. So for me, that's the main one. So for me, that's why it's not why I've given it up, but it's something that I like about the fact that I don't contribute to that. But you're right, you know, I think a good example, another one, which a lot of people don't know, is the milks. So almond milk, actually, you know, in some ways is pretty bad for the environment. You know, it's, you know, the way it's kind of captured, it uses a lot of water as well. Really grown in one part of the world and, you know, flown thousands of miles. So, you know, I try and avoid almond milk. Soy milk for me seems the best one in terms of carbon footprint. I'll go for that. So I think it's kind of making your choices, isn't it? You know, I think it's looking at it and thinking, what can we do to easily reduce your impact?
I guess maybe we have to apply a bit of pressure. I mean, I agree with you in terms of soya. One of the statistics when I was doing my quiz that I was horrified about was the fact that they are growing a lot of soya now, particularly in South America, also a bit in the US, and it's destroying forest. But the thing about the soybeans or whatever is that it's being grown mostly to feed animals rather than to feed us. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hornet's nest.
Somewhere between 70 and 90% of the soy grown is for animals.
Yeah.
So if you use animal, you know, intake, then you don't need to make as much soy for them. You know, it's one of those catch-22s, isn't it? And I think whatever you decide to go with, someone will find something that has got an argument against it. But I think the thing for me that is really, really clear, and it's not just a myth now, it's clear, is that animal agriculture industry is the biggest contributor to, you know, greenhouse gas, that kind of stuff, you know, emissions. So for me, that's the main one that I focus on. But yeah, everyone has to look at it in their own way and make a choice.
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Mike,
Can I,
I have to say, Andy, I thought the meals you presented looked really delicious and inviting.
Yes.
So, good choice.
Yeah. Well, feel free to come over and try some, Mike, whenever you want. Bring your bike as well. We'll go for a ride.
Yeah, I think I will.
One thing that occurs to me, though, your family likes cooking, you see. You like being imaginative, and I'm not terribly imaginative, so it's so much easier just to dig out what you're used to rather than find substitutes and do. I think that's some of the bar for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that is true. We all love cooking, like all four of us, and so I think that helps. And I think you know, at least these days, if you go to a supermarket, there are tons of super easy alternative plant-based ready meals, things that are available that you just stick in the microwave or the oven. You know, there's a really, really good selection of alternative foods now that wasn't here, you know, 2, 3, 4 years ago. So that certainly helps. But yeah, I think for me, it's discovering ways of cooking things that is way nicer than I used to realize. So like as a kid, when we had cauliflower, it was always just boiled. It was boiled cauliflower. I hated it. It was just disgusting. Whereas now, you know, we just sprinkle a bit of paprika and oil and lemon juice, stick it in the oven and roast it for half an hour. It's like dead easy, takes no time. And it's the nicest thing ever. It's like my favorite thing to eat. And it's just, I think it's just discovering new ways of cooking food that you had as a kid, maybe that you didn't like. And then it just becomes the norm.
and if you could cook, oh, sorry, Christine.
I wanted to ask about your family members that are on the blood pressure tablets, you know, and you said, oh, they're on them for life. Is there a way that they could, by doing that, could come off the tablets, do you think, or once they've started?
No, definitely you can. If you've got Netflix or Amazon Prime, there's an amazing documentary called Forks Over Knives. I really highly recommend watching it. It's basically about lots of different people that have got, you know, whatever it is wrong with them, whether it's diabetes, heart disease, different forms of cancer. There's, you know, arthritis. There's people who are like riddled with, you know, really debilitating things, and they effectively go on this really hardcore plant-based diet for, I think it's like 6 weeks or 12 weeks, and the results they see are amazing. They're really, really like amazing, and yeah, highly recommend it. And then, you know, there's lots of books around it that have been based on that kind of study as well. So yeah, it can certainly be done. Yeah.
Andy, can I just ask, what did you say? Forks and knives?
Forks over knives.
Over knives.
I think that's right, isn't it, Laura? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. So basically, it's saying that it was to be able to eat yourself healthy, as opposed to having your a surgeon cut you with a knife, give you a transplant.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
So Andy, this is just a general question. What's your favourite herb then to kind of spice up everything? I mean, what do you use to make everything taste really good?
In terms of herbs, it's definitely coriander. I could just eat coriander all day, like, you know, as it is.
Good for curries. Yeah.
I'll stick it in anything. I'd say my go-to staples are probably ginger, garlic, lemon juice, coriander, soy sauce. Anything like that, kind of Asian. I like a lot of Asian inspired foods.
Thank you.
Graham.
I just want to speak in defence of Sheila, really, because judging by the climate they're living in, it's not surprising food is difficult.
Or is it a joke? Good old Graham.
I think I put in a plea. Perhaps Andy and Laura would share some of their favourite recipes.
Yes.
Make a donation something.
Here, I was about to say the same thing. Can we have a cookbook?
On my blog, there's 4 or 5 recipes. I'm more than happy to put a whole, like, you know, host of recipes together. We've got loads of cookbooks that our friends have given us.
An ebook, the Oakley Green ebook.
Yeah. We've actually got some recipes up on the Green Week information box. And so, yes, if you could add some more. But you also, in your blog, Andy, you've given us links, haven't you, to different recipes. And also to vegan chefs. Is there any one of those that you would recommend over and above the others?
Yeah, I would recommend Bosch. So it's BOSH.
BOSH.
Yeah, they're really good. They've got probably, like, you know, 500 different recipes online, you know, that you can look at, and from simple meals to 5-course banquets, you know, the whole range.
I don't think we need to go that far.
Well, I was going to say, you know, this year, obviously, we can't all meet up, but next year, if we can, I'd be more than happy to put on like a vegan banquet or something, you know.
Oh, we're going to take you up on that, Andy.
Yes, that sounds really good. Yes, and the easy vegan, that sort of attracted me by the word easy.
Yeah. He's really funny as well. He's like a comedian.
Right. Okay.
Well, Laura.
We haven't used this one yet because we only got it yesterday, but I've read the whole thing, and can you see here? It's
5 ingredient vegan.
Wow.
And this is by Katie Besto. Can you see?
Katie Besto.
And what is so lovely about it, because I don't know about you, but when I'm finding a new recipe, I just feel daunted by the fact that you've got to get 20 ingredients out, half of which you haven't got, and then you just get put off by it. But the fact that you can pick up some of these, and they are the doddle. So even if you haven't got any ingredients for, and if you add 5 ingredients onto your list on your shop, but a lot of them are things that you would have, or once you've got them in your cupboard, you need a little teaspoon of something like that. But the recipes are really good in there, and I think the fact that it's just 5 is manageable and attainable. So yeah, they look really good.
That sounds good, really good. What happens when you are allergic to anything on the bean side? And I'm allergic to soya and oats. So how do you cope with that, Andy?
Good question. I guess just look at the recipes that don't have those. Like soy is quite prevalent in vegan stuff, I would say. But oats and beans would be quite easy to take up. You eat a lot of like rice curries, that kind of thing. And I think for a cauliflower curry with rice and nice green veggies, they don't want to have any of those things.
Sorry, we're getting interference again. Okay. Any more questions for Andy? Jane.
It's just as silly, but you were saying, Andy, that the girls aren't vegan. What about you, Laura? Are you a vegan now, or are you vegetarian, or are you kind of, going that way, or do your own thing?
Yeah, I can just see that Andy needs to do things very differently from the way that I do. And he said that he needs to do all or nothing. And I'm very much not needing to be that way at all. So I'm not going to put myself as anything. I would happily eat anything. But I have found that I've really enjoyed eating the vast majority of the foods that he has. I don't think there's been anything that we've had together that I've not enjoyed. I wasn't a big meat eater in the first place, but perhaps our very favourite joint, date night would be a baked camembert with crusty bread, and we haven't had any of that for the last year, but we've replaced it with other things. We've enjoyed different meals together, and so I don't feel like I've missed out at all. But in fact, having cut out a lot of, because we've had soya milk in the fridge and other things, cutting out cow's milk has made a massive difference, I think, to my health. Not having the hormones that the cows have been given has really helped me, and I feel a lot healthier now than I ever have. And so yeah, I think it's been a really positive impact for me personally, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
So you don't eat meat at all now, or you do sometimes?
We don't have a ton of it in the house. We do it mainly because the girls would enjoy having it. So it would be things like, bacon, eggs, or just simple meat. But I would always choose probably not to have it now than to actually have it. But if I went to school and they made me a meal with me, I would certainly eat it. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not sure if we'll have too many invitations now because of veganism, but there we go.
What about fish, Laura? You used to eat fish.
Yeah, I still eat fish. Again, we don't have a lot of. We didn't ever have a lot of fish in the house. It would, or Andy can share that he certainly had an intolerance to it. So, yeah, we don't have much fish.
Is that frowned upon, Andy, to eat fish?
Yeah. So that's
plant-based.
Yeah. So it's no animals at all. Yeah.
Right.
But like Laura said, for me that was an easy one because I was allergic to most fish. So I never ate it anyway.
I do eat a lot of fish. Well, I've got to cut out a lot, haven't I?
You don't have to.
No, I'm basically veggie anyway, so it wouldn't take a lot for me to move over. And I saw your hand up, Richard.
Yeah, I was interested, Andy, in what you said about adding things before taking them away. And you said you went straight from one to the other. But did you have any kind of withdrawal symptoms, for want of a better word?
No, not really. As I said, I'm quite good at just making decisions and just going with it. And I think because it was health related to me. I just thought, oh, I'm going to properly do this for like a month or 2 months and just see what happens and not cheat at all. So I think when after that 2-month period, I checked my blood pressure and it was perfect. That was like, right, I'm never going to go back. You know,
strong motivation.
Yeah. But I think, as Laura mentioned it, I'd say the one thing I miss is probably a nice baked camembert. You know, that's probably the one thing that I really miss. But other than that, I haven't looked back, and I've discovered so many new foods that I'd never eaten before or never enjoyed in the way that I do now. So yeah, it's no turning back for me. But yeah, no real withdrawal symptoms, I would say.
Have you tried any vegan sort of camembert or a replacement for camembert?
I don't think it exists yet.
No.
Yeah, but if I saw it on a menu, I'd definitely go for it.
Sorry, Richard, you were going to say something else? No. Oh, Mary. No? Sorry. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Selena's got a hand up. Sorry, Selena.
Yes. Andy, this is so fascinating. And I was someone with a really weak will and have been advised I should give up gluten, which I've almost eradicated apart from sourdough bread. But advised to eat a lot of protein. So I'm really interested in this. And obviously, as you know, we lived in India for years. So making high protein foods isn't difficult with pulses and stuff. But the transition from what you want to eat, like cheese. I'm with Linda. I'm a real cheese lover, and no, there can't possibly be a camembert substitute. The cheddar cheese, I think, is dire, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, all vegan cheeses aren't great, if I'm honest. But it is what it is. There's good meat replacements, not good cheese replacements.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the one thing I found that has been the easiest to give up, apart from butter and cheese, is milk. So, I mean, I've been taking oat milk, which I really like drinking. Have you tried that?
Yeah, I love oat milk and coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, I find oat milk and coffee is the best. And so I just work with oat milk now. Not all oat milks are the same, of course. You need to try them out.
Yeah. And I would say we've got.
And I've used oat cream.
Yeah.
And I even made ice cream with it, which was really successful. So oat cream, coconut milk, and fruit made the most amazing ice cream. So
a good point as well is ice cream. So there's loads and loads of good vegan ice creams now. So Ben and Jerry's make a really good one, and you can actually buy it in one stop. So if you go to one stop,
and I'm afraid with lockdown, I bought myself an ice cream maker because we do have quite a lot of fruit, especially fruit from last year and even the year before. Rather freeze-dried raspberries go pretty well into ice cream, but because my grandson is, he's gluten-free and dairy-free. My son-in-law is celiac, so we've had all sorts of complications. So I made lots of gluten-free and dairy-free stuff. So the ice cream was one of the most successful things. So you haven't talked about sugar. I mean, that's got a pretty bad carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, effectively, I guess what I would say I try to do is follow a whole foods plant-based diet. So, if I go around someone's house and they've cooked for me and they've put a bit of milk in something, I'm not going to turn it down. Like, I'm not militant about what I don't eat. But, for myself, I won't ever put animal product if I'm cooking. But again, with sugar, like I try and not have refined sugar as much as possible. I'm not a big, sweet eater anyway. So in my family, I'm the one that eats more savoury than sweet. But yeah, even things like grains, I'll try and eat whole grains, so brown pasta, brown rice, that kind of stuff, more than same with bread. So I try and cut out the sugars as much as possible. But for me, it's looking at what's, I didn't go vegan because of the environment, but I think if that was my choice to do that, I think meat and dairy are the biggest.
Well, I must say I've got a lot of respect for you because you've done it through health. I mean, I have high blood pressure and an autoimmune disease, but I've sort of gone, 75% of the way, but not all of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I eat sourdough bread, which is still gluten, but I find it doesn't disagree with me as badly. Yeah. And I find it hard to give up butter and and cheese, as I'm sure lots of people do. Butter and cheese are.
Have you tried
things.
Have you tried the vegan plant-based spreads instead of butter?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to be. You know, I think probably if you do it regularly, you get used to them and they become pleasant.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I think that, you know, you've been very single-minded about it. You know, all respect to you, but lots of us are sort of, you know, a little bit here and a little bit there, and trying to make the change, and it's quite hard.
I think that's the important thing, isn't it? It's like, you know, making little changes that work for you and you can stick to. Like if you're going to do something, like you're not worth it. It's what you can do.
I use olive spread. Is that acceptable, Andy?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the packet.
It's nice. It's very nice.
It's made from plant.
What's it called, Linda?
Olive.
I get it from Lidl's actually. And it's olive spread. It's a bit like the Italian one.
It's very good. I agree. It's really nice. I'm interrupting because I'm going to have to go.
Okay.
But thank you ever so much. Thank you, Andy, too. It was really, really interesting. And definitely pick up some of your tips and carry on with the reducitarian. Not quite there yet, but we're definitely cutting down in our family. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Me too. It's been fascinating. We'll look forward to the cookbook, Andy.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, right. Has anybody else got a question left to ask Andy? Yeah, no more questions. Shaking of heads. Sheila, Mike?
Oh, yeah, I think Alan's given us a great challenge. You know?
He certainly has. I agree with that, Mike.
Good to think about.
I'm halfway there. I've got to do a little bit more.
Got some encouragement there, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. Really helpful.
Great. Thank you all for joining as well. I really appreciate it on a Saturday night.
Yeah, it's really good. Thank you.
Okay, folks. Thanks for coming along.
So we'll look forward to seeing some more stuff online, will we? Or on your blog, Andy?
If you go in and read the blog, there are lots of links that you can go into to get more information. We've had the offer of a banquet. I'm sure there's going to be more to come. So we'll work on that.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you for coming. But anything that you'd like to ask in the meanwhile, Andy would be more than willing to get in touch by email, perhaps?
Email or phone, or however, really. Yeah, I'm more than happy to go through anything.
You've got some questions to ask?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks, guys.
Night, night, girls.
Bye.
Yeah.
Time for bed. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.